Tulane legend, Shaun King, I got to ask you about Tulane quarterbacks here. Let's start with this. So Jaden Rashada, Georgia transfer quarterback, is in active talks and is in contact with Tulane. Shaun, let me get your thoughts on this. With the TJ Finley situation, him being suspended from the team, what are your thoughts on Tulane being in contact with Jaden Rashada? Go ahead.
I imagine a bunch of teams are always doing their due diligence at all times.
Yep.
I haven't talked to coach since spring football started, so I'm not up to date on the current events. I did have Jaden at IMG for a short period of time. Talented kid. I still think his greatest issue is how to handle competition emotionally.
Right. Yeah. Why do you say that?
It takes a special, athlete to continue to chase greatness when things don't go your way.
For sure.
And it just seems like Jaden shows up at a place, if it don't work out in his favor, then he leaves and goes somewhere else. At some point, I think he's going to have to just make the decision, okay, I got to fight through this adversity. I got to, even if I don't win this initial competition, I just got to keep becoming a better version of me. So
absolutely,
we'll see how it plays. I mean, he's been to a lot of schools, man. And if you go back to his sophomore year of high school, Jaden might have been 10 schools.
Yeah. That's a real. I mean, and we're gonna talk about the lawsuit against the University of Florida in a second, but he has been to a lot of schools, and that is an interesting tidbit you dropped. You coached him at IMG. He seems to shy away from competition here, having been to, like you mentioned, probably 10 schools damn near. Shaun, before we talk about the lawsuit, can you talk about Jaden Rashada as a player? What are some of his strengths that you like, his weaknesses, and then his potential as a college football quarterback? And if he were to be for your Tulane here, his potential as a starter potentially. Go ahead.
Well, he's got a lot of natural ability to throw the football. And he's a tall kid. He's kind of built like Jaden Daniels in a lot of ways. I don't think he's quite as tall as Jaden, maybe. I haven't seen Jaden in a couple of years, so I don't know where he is height-wise currently. But he was on that developmental path to be that body type. Now, he's not the athlete Jaden was, and he doesn't throw the ball consistently as well. But just trying to give the listener and the viewer an idea of what he looks like in person. And he can make some throws. I just mean he's got to stay healthy, and he's got to be willing to fight through adversity.
Yeah.
And, this is a message as much for his father as it is for him. Like, I mean, it ain't always the school.
Right.
You got to leave all these times. Like, it's not always the school.
Yeah.
Like, if he's really as good as he thinks he is, and he stays at Georgia, well, Carson Beck left.
Yeah.
So you should be next in line there, right? If you really, have your shit in order and, you are improving, in the areas that you're deficient, then when a Carson Beck decides to leave, they don't have anybody else on the roster to replace him, then shouldn't that be you?
Yeah, and you would think, right, if you're all about competition, you're confident in who you are as a player, and you're at Georgia, you see Carson Beck go, and your competition, old boy, the backup here, you saw play in the playoff a little bit against Notre Dame. Interesting that Jaden Rashada elected to transfer from that, Shaun. That's a great point you mentioned there. My next question going on Rashada here, he and the University of Florida, he's suing the University of Florida and Billy Napier, and a judge ruled Tuesday that Jaden Rashada's fraudulent misrepresentation / inductment conspiracy to commit fraud and negligent misrepresentation claims against Florida coach Billy Napier and the University of Florida will move to discovery and go towards trial here. Shaun, this is, again, 2025 college football headline here. Jaden Rashada suing Billy Napier and the University of Florida. Now the claims here move to discovery and goes toward trial here. Shaun, can you give your thoughts on the lawsuit and what this whole situation here? Go ahead.
Well, generally, just having some attorney friends, and I haven't spoken to them specifically about this, but in our conversations as we smoke cigars and watch games over the course of the last 15 years, this generally means that the judge didn't see so little evidence that he threw it out, and that the two parties were not interested or could not meet some middle ground for a settlement.
Right.
So that's what this means. Yeah, the judge looked at it. He was like, even if it was just a tad bit, it was enough there to potentially go to trial and let a trial determine it. And the two parties, either because they didn't want to or because they couldn't agree, didn't reach a settlement. Because trials are expensive. Lawyer fees, you go to trial, that's more money.
That is very true, Shaun, and him going to court over NIL money here, I guess Billy Napier offered him something he didn't get, and I don't know too much about the background of this lawsuit. I know Carl Reed, when this came out 6 months ago or so, kind of rushed to it and said, don't believe all the headlines here. Go find out the truth about the Rashada lawsuit. Shaun, what are your thoughts on the actual lawsuit and Rashada suing Billy Napier in Florida over alleged NIL funds he didn't receive, or he so-called he was promised something he didn't get?
I don't know how the law works in Florida. I would imagine this will be different from state to state.
Right.
Is a verbal contract binding, and in what situations? The interesting thing is the "and others," because generally the head coach is not involved in the NIL negotiation part. Yeah, so it says misrepresent against Florida coach Billy Napier and others. So the "and others" I would assume are boosters or people involved with the collective. So now, can you sue a third party element with a NIL student athlete to university discussion? So like that means, for instance, okay, say you're interested in going to Tulane. I played at Tulane. I know Coach Sumrall, but I'm speaking, I'm saying, hey Bailey, what if we gave you $1.5 million a year? Would you come? And you say, okay, and I like, cool, all right, you got that. But I ain't talked to Coach Sumrall. Coach Sumrall didn't tell you that. Yeah. But I'm attached to the university. Is he liable? Is university like, this is that gray area because it's not regulated. There are no stipulations and guidelines. So it's just the damn wild, wild west.
Right. Yeah. The Wild Wild West. And it's good. I don't know the laws in Florida on that here. And I don't know the actual interaction here. I know Rashada is suing a big time Florida Gators booster, along with others, claiming they defrauded him out of millions of dollars by backing.
Think about our conversation. Just make me the big Florida Gator booster.
Yeah.
Am I talking to Billy Napier? Am I not? Am I just, on that liquor one night and I'm feeling good? And I say, hell yeah, because of the stars you got coming out of high school and we don't really got a quarterback. Yeah. And if that conversation happens, is that legally binding if I'm not representing the University of Florida and Billy Napier directly? Just because I'm a booster, that doesn't mean that legally I represent them. If we haven't communicated and talked and they know what it is that I'm representing, you know what I'm saying? Like, just because you went to a university, don't make you a part of the power structure. Even if you're a big booster.
Yeah.
Like that's why I don't think Jaden, unless he got it in writing and it officially has a signature of Napier or University of Florida, I just think it's going to come down to a big booster saying and promising something that ultimately he ended up reversing his mind on. It didn't have nothing to do with Napier in Florida.
Yeah, that's huge. And like you mentioned, we talked about the lawsuit here moves to discovery, goes towards trial. Interesting development there. And Jaden Rashada, as he's in the portal, transferred from Georgia, in active talk, so to speak, with Western Kentucky, UConn, and your school, Tulane. So interesting. We'll discuss this more as more news comes out about this and whether Jaden Rashada ends up at Tulane there.